job in DC for another construction firm, and I wanted to work for Vanessa, but so on the first day on the job, I get a call from the saying, "You're interested, come on, we want to interview you." I said, "Sorry, I've taken the job." Okay, so no, that was my first choice, but they didn't get back to me for a small firm in DC. It was a British American firm. Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, nice to meet you too.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the July 14th, 2025 meeting of the Lowell Historic Board. We have one public hearing this evening. It's item BHND-25-01, 80 Manzura Street, application for historic permit by Stephen Landry for construction of a garage. Would the applicant like to step forward to the podium and present the project? And please introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Landry, here for the 80 Manson Street Garage project. Looking to construct a 25 by 50 detached garage on the property. We know it's a historic building, so trying to keep in line with the historic features of the house. It's just a simple drive-through garage. Be on the back side of the property on the Wyman Street side. So we've got the gables on there to match the original house. You know, we use the same siding, same colors as the house. The property has a little bit of a slope to it, so we're going to slope the interior of the garage as we would have to anyway, but it'll follow a little more of the natural slope of the property. So the northern door will be a little higher than the southern door, which it has to be anyway to drain the garage. Really about it. It's just a simple four-car detached garage.
Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? If so, please step to the podium and introduce yourself.
My name is Lee. We may want you to speak in opposition.
Pardon?
Want me to speak in opposition?
Right now, we're opening the floor to people who wish to speak in favor of this proposal.
Okay. I have a question, and that is, does the current carriage house remain?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we can address that in the discussion.
Okay.
A second call for people who wish to speak in favor of the proposal. Third call. Open the floor to anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposal.
That's you, Jim.
Okay. I'm Jim Peters. I'm Paul Saunders' brother-in-law. And I want to tell you, I want to talk a little bit about Paul. A bit. I have Alzheimer's. I have Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little bit of difficulty with the situation.
Mm-hmm. No worries.
Anyway, when I first came to this building, it was a farmhouse. It was literally a farmhouse. There was room for the horses, and room for the overhead straw that was hit on the top, and it was a beautiful piece of work, and was kept by Mrs. Donahue, I think it was in there at the time, and it was kept by Mrs. Donahue as a point of her desire to have the house look good. And she had a ladder, well, she still has it, I think. It has it's not really a ladder, it's a slide. She had a slide in it, and she used to put the oats and the wheat on with her horses, and then she would throw it down the thing, and she would use it to feed the horses. And it was a beautiful piece of work that Paul served and stayed with for this whole time that he was in the office. And I like to think of Paul as the person who not only did the basic stuff for the system, but who also stayed there during his time in the Senate and the House, and in the House and in the Senate, and then the other time periods that he stayed there, and he was very concise about what he wanted that room to look like. And the room that he put in was quite a bit different than what you're showing on the sheet, I think. Okay. Anyway, Paul ended up being a U.S. presidential candidate. He was the chief presidential candidate in the first election for the New Hampshire House, and he did extremely well in keeping the building that we're talking about in consistent, a type of consistency. And I was very impressed with Paul's. I mean, he and I had a lot of fun in that house. It was incredible. He one day he got a local nationwide news person from Tulsa, not from Tulsa, from Canada, and he got them to give a speech on my behalf, because I found out that Paul had cancer, and I told him that he had cancer, and he was like the president from the 1870s, who had cancer, and he was found to be one of the people who made a big deal out of the fact that he had cancer, and he wanted to make sure that people knew it. It made for an interesting day. He got the person from the newspaper to mention me on TV, on international television, and that was really cool for me personally. And he used that room, that section of the garage, as a spot for people to, I like to think that he used it as a spot for people to look at our efforts and follow up on them. And I was very pleased with what he did in the time that he was there. And I look at his okay, and then in my note it says, there's more time to the presidential place than took place. This is, my wife is Vicky Songus. She's Paul's sister. And she is very interested in seeing not too much damage done to the house. That's a consistent thing. And she saw that the system was, well, it's like, I can't tell you what it's like. It speaks pretty much for itself. I'm pleased with the fact that Paul used that section of the house to become a presidential candidate. I'm pleased that Paul used that house as a spot for just everything that he could possibly want that house to have in its way. And I'd just like to see it as much as possible continue on as it is.
Are you finished with your comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any other individuals who wish to speak on the project?
My name is Paul Reuter, Georgia, a color and I own.
Can you give the microphone, Stephen, please? Yeah.
Thank you.
We just want to make sure everyone's on the microphone and can be seen and heard.
So my name is Paul Reuter, and I'm married to Georgia McCullough. In fact, we just got married in October. So I'm newlyweds, and I'm new in Lowell. And I didn't realize I was not only marrying a wonderful woman, but I'm moving into the Paul Songus home. Georgia bought that home 20 years ago from Nikki Songus. And I would say to you that you're welcome to come in, because that home has been kept in the shape for the most part. I mean, you have to make changes in a home to update it. In fact, we've just spent upwards of $300,000 taking care of that home. We just repointed all the brickwork, put new roofs on it. We took out all the new knob and tube electric, put in a new heating system. We're just upgrading the home to take care of it. In fact, Georgia's on the MRT board, and as you may know, there's a play for Paul Songus in the next season of MRT. We were just at the annual meeting and listened to the person that's writing the play from California. And we've invited the board of MRT and other people to come in when the play is appropriate to have an open house to celebrate Paul Songus and to bring in the community. So we're very thankful to be there, and we're doing all we can to take care of the historic value of it. Thank you.
Last call for comments on the project, either for or against.
I have a question. Is that appropriate now or later?
Yes, this is the opportunity for public comment, so if you want to go to the podium and present it, that'd be appropriate. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Cepolaro. I live at 96 Manser, so I'm an immediate abutter to Georgia and Paul's property. I just have a question of information for myself. The design I saw online for the second floor appears to be just attic space. Is that true, or is that going to become an apartment?
The space we end up with on the second floor is inherent in the design, just to try to keep the old look of the house with the high arches. There is a staircase up there. It's dry storage. It's not heated. It's just dry storage. And we have no intent that I know of to ever make it another unit, you know. But while I'm up here, I'd also like to add that, you know, I grew up in the city, and they're lucky that Georgia owns the house. That house has been meticulously kept in the style of the 1800s. We've just, like Paul said, I've done the work. We just did $300,000+ worth of work to make sure that house stayed as it was. You know, so hopefully all of our other historic houses in the city can end up with such wonderful owners. But that house is, like Paul said, you want to see it. It's still a sight to see.
Any other comments from the public before we close the public hearing portion? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for board comments and questions.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just had a question. I wanted to make clear that no part of the house is being torn down or anything to that effect. Someone had brought it up earlier. Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
As far as I understand it, the application that we reviewed internally ahead of time is only for the construction of a new garage on the other end of the property. The carriage house and the existing house both will not be affected.
Your house will be not affected?
What was it?
The carriage house will not be affected.
No, the carriage house remains and is untouched.
I did have a question. Mr. Landry, was the consideration given to rehabbing the current carriage house, and what is the condition of the carriage house?
The carriage house is in great condition. Yeah. The carriage house is still in great condition. I mean, all the original features are still there, right down to the hatch in the floor to get down to the basement. I mean, we still have to lift the old hatch to get down the original staircase into the basement. Matter of fact, the old troughs are still down there to get rid of the fluids from the horses.
Okay.
But
I'm just wondering, was there any consideration with the owners to, rehabbing it or making it acceptable instead of having a new garage?
Well, it's just not big enough. The carriage house is a carriage house. It's not a garage.
Okay, it
There's
looked
only
pretty big to me.
Yeah, well, there's only one small garage in between the carriage house and the main house.
So you're not presuming that you're gonna crack the area where the old stables were?
Nope, not at all.
Not at all.
We're just building garage space because we park our cars in the driveway. And as my wife broke her femur this year on the driveway, walking on ice, trying to avoid it.
So, Mr. Landry, you mentioned, you acknowledge that there is a slope to the property where you're proposing to build the garage. And you said that the floor of the garage will match that slope?
It has to slope to a degree because you gotta get the water out of it.
All right.
So we're gonna just slope it from one end. Sorry. We're just gonna slope it from one end all the way to the other because we have the pass-through doors. So it'll slope in the same direction that Wyman Street already slopes. And the driveways get reformed to meet
Right.
the new entrances.
But it seems to me that, compared to, just referencing the drawing here, there's the front elevation and the rear elevation, and because of the slope, one of those doors will need to be dropped lower, correct?
Right, so as you're looking at just renditions, so the concrete inside, you're not seeing the concrete inside. So the foundation will be the same coming across, so it'll all look level from outside, and the floor inside will slope. You don't want to put the foundation crooked, or it's going to look like the house
No.
is built crooked.
What is the approximate height difference from one end of the building to the other?
It's where it's going the grade, because it's out inside that horseshoe driveway, so
You're
the
right.
grade is only a foot or two different. So we're probably gonna have like a maybe 12 to 16 inch slope over the 50 feet of the garage. Which will allow us to keep the natural water path that's already there.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm not understanding this though, but even if it's only a foot, one of the garage doors would need to be a foot or two lower on the elevation drawing than the other elevation.
Right.
But that's not reflected here, and so I'm just trying to, because that foot or two can kind of will sort of change the proportions of how the opening relates to the, the walls and the roof line above it and so on, which isn't, right here, these two elevations are exactly the same, when in fact they're going to be different.
The lower door will just drop more into the frost wall than the other wall. The wood structure will all stay the same.
Okay,
So the opening in the frost wall will be a little bit lower on the lower end.
okay.
Would,
Have you talked to Nikki about this? Have you talked to Nikki Songus about changes?
No, I would only talk to the owners.
Okay.
would you have a site section or maybe not, a site section to show the slope? Because that was one of my questions as well. Okay.
I mean, it's on the,
He's saying a section through the building, proposed building.
Right.
no, I mean, I can get one done if we need to, but it kind of seems irrelevant.
Yeah, again, it was just that, yeah, I mean, the drawings don't actually depict it that well, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Well, I think it's because it's inherent in the garage, you have to slope a garage floor, so when you do one at each end, one door is obviously going to be lower than the other.
Thank you.
I also, I don't know if we have the plot plan shown here that shows where okay, yeah. So this gives us an idea of where this is in relation to the existing driveway, but obviously you'll need to change the driveway, and you'll need to add some pavement to connect to the carriage house, right? I'm assuming a site plan will be developed at some point to guide the construction of the driveway?
Well, I mean, honestly, if it's approved where it is, it would all be done in the field. And again, if one needs to be produced, I can produce it.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful at least for Steve's review, administrative review, so we know in advance what the driveway dimensions will be like, how it will
Well,
be
it's actually,
laid out.
the only thing that's not shown here is the cut-throughs. This is the new driveway right here, and it's just going to fold up into the garage. I mean, I can get you a plan
So you add that to the conditions?
quickly.
Yeah, I think that would
Okay.
be part of the conditions for the. I mean, overall, I feel like the design of the garage fits in with the overall style of the existing house and carriage house, but it's distinct enough that it reads as a 21st century structure, such that one wouldn't be confused to think that, oh, this was part of the original complex of this house, that it doesn't date from the 1800s, but is a modern structure. It definitely ties in visually to it. What's the proposed material for the garage doors?
We haven't picked the garage doors.
Okay, so that'll also be part of the conditions for us to look at. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I have just a comment. If you are interested in showing off the house, that is always an option because we do have an annual event, Doors Open Lowell. And that might be a great opportunity to show off the beautiful house. I, for one, would love to see the inside of it. Just a thought.
Well, when we have the open house for the Paul Song display, which is in town, which is our intent, we've already notified. George is on the board of the MRT. So our plan is to, we already, they were just trying to schedule a date. So the answer would be yes.
That's cool.
The other issue is my wife broke a femur on that driveway, so I'm anxious to have a car drive, that you can drive out of the driveway, not on the driveway. So. But you're welcome to come anytime. But you will make sure you get an invitation to the, probably in September, October.
Sounds great.
There'll be 2 events actually, one this fall and then one next fall, because the play is actually scheduled for next fall. But this is sort of introductory. And I've also opened the house to the Blind Association. They have an open house, or they have a fundraiser every year, and they pick a different house on the hill to conduct the fundraiser. And they did ask me at one point, one year, about 6, 7 years ago, and I did open up the house to them.
Georgia bought the house 20 years ago from Nikki Songus.
If there's no more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the design of the of the garage.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, is that contingent on a couple of minor?
Exactly, approval of the final design and construction detail.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations. Thank you very much. That concludes the public hearing section of our agenda. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from both the April 14th, 2025 meeting and the May 12th, 2025 meeting. Are there any comments or questions about those minutes? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Oh, I need a motion to approve.
Oh, motion to approve minutes.
To approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll now move on to other business. The first item under other business is an informational presentation from the Lowell Community Charter School. If you'd like to come to the podium and present your presentation. Al, if we have any visuals for this, Steve? Yep, here we go.
Good evening. I'm Robert Gignac. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Lowell Community Charter Public School and proud Lowell resident. With me this evening is our Executive Director of LCCPS, Nick Leonardos, and the Owner's Project Manager for the school, Greg Walsh. And I will turn it over to our Structural Engineer, Nate Roy from LeMessurier.
Okay, thanks, Robert. So thank you guys for having me here today. My name's Nate Roy, structural engineer with LeMessurier Consultants. So we're structural engineers and enclosure specialists out of Boston, Massachusetts. So the Lowell Community Public Charter School engaged us to review what you see here is the stack, the smokestack. It's located south of the Mill 5 building. And Steve, thank you for.
Just tell me whenever you want to move ahead, just let me know. I'll be available.
Oh, this is excellent. Thank you. So we were engaged to do a condition assessment, visual observations of that stack. If you want to go to the next slide, that'd be great. So we just wanted to give a little bit of context for you. So this is a map from the 1900s, a Bromley Atlas, and we've circled the location of that stack. So you can see around the 1900s, there was an outbuilding and a single stack on the site. Steve, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Excellent. And Robert actually shared with me a few other, I don't know if you can see this here, but a photo from 1941. Didn't make it into the slide presentation, but you could see there was 2 stacks. And from that point, this is a photo we found in our research from 1979. You can still see those 2 stacks. There's no existing drawings of the existing stacks, but we pulled, oh man, now I'm forgetting where I got this resource from. Anyways.
Was it Locks and Canals collection?
It is not. No, it's, I have a great book, and I can't remember what we always use it for reference of like historic construction. But here's kind of the construction of a typical stack of the area. So red brick masonry, unreinforced, 15 feet in the diameter, about 160 feet tall, and it bears on conventional unreinforced granite foundations. And so that kind of reflected what we saw in the condition. Great, if you want to go to the next slide. So just kind of giving some history of the site. In 2020, that outbuilding that we saw, or one of the adjacent outbuildings, collapsed, and that was removed and demoed. Excellent. And there's signs you can see of that on the smokestack. So you can see the flashing where it flashed into the building, and then bricked up opening, not matching that existing construction. Steve, go to the next slide. Thank you. And also in the 1990s, there was a lightning strike on the smokestack, and the top of the smokestack, you dislodged bricks, so that was replaced, and there's signs of that. So you can see that, those top coursings on the masonry. They added lightning protection. In addition, the stack was what we're calling like weatherized to protect it. So there's a concrete cap on the top. This is good, it makes it suspenseful. So we did a visual observation, ground-based, with use of binoculars, photography. We also brought out existing conditions to do a full photo mapping over the 160 feet. So we couldn't engage it was between that and a lift. And the lift wasn't going to give us the full height. So these are, we provide a link to the board so you guys can see all of those images. So kind of, now we get to, and then now if you have any questions on these slides. No, I appreciate you working the slides. And you guys also have them in front of you too. So
yes, we do.
That works. I'll just go, because I have them on mine. So the first image you see, if you go on to the next slide, as Steve's going to that, is a photo of the base. And it's a good representative. So you can see that granite foundation, but you can see missing brick units, deteriorated, and loss of section for the mortar joints. That's excellent. Thank you. Also bricked up at the base. The next slide, please. As you work your way up, there's visible cracking throughout the height. Again, damaged and missing brick units. And then very consistently, and I should have put a few more photos. I have them on my PowerPoint if you're interested, over the height. But a very consistent deteriorated mortar joints and section loss in those mortar joints. So repointing. The school asked us, working with Greg, what do we need to do for make safe preventative maintenance? So this would be repointing, we think, based on our mapping, over 80% of the height. We're going to repair cracks, or we would repair cracks, and then seal everything completely to protect it. So that's the estimate that's on the left, and Robert's going to get into that a little bit. On the right is, what if we wanted to take it a step further? And it's not required by code, but what if we wanted to do a seismic upgrade? This was a structure, a chimney, that was attached to a building that's removed. Now it's a freestanding cantilever, taller than it was. So what would it take to do a seismic upgrade? And that would be FRP to give it some tension capacity on the section. So again, that's kind of certainly above and beyond what would ever be required per code. But just wanted to kind of bound those solutions.
Could I pause you? Did you mean seismic upgrade in terms of that it is so big it's seismic, or an upgrade for seismic purposes?
Oh, an upgrade for seismic purposes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, is that included in the cost estimate?
That is included in the estimate on the right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I think we discussed it, and it would be very difficult to do, because where do you want to put the FRP? You want to put it on the outside, and that's not where anyone would want to see the FRP. So to really do it, it would be tough. But this is what we would recommend for the short term, right? To bring it up for a make-safe condition. But there's going to be preventative maintenance over the years that would have to be done to continue to protect it. So with that, Greg, if you want to come up and just give a little bit about that cost estimate.
Greg Walsh with DCA 360. We're the owners, project managers for the school. And I just want to stand up and talk a little bit about, so as Nate mentioned, he put together, based on his visual observations, a scope of work to stabilize the stack, which involved about 5% brick replacement, 15% of rebuilding the bricks, 80% of the stack would be repointed, and then we put a clear penetrating sealer on it. And the estimate for that, we have a construction manager who's helping us with another project at the school, and they put together an estimate based on those specifications that were prepared by Nate, which would be about $455,000 to stabilize it. And that's the estimate on the left-hand side of your screen. Because of the nature, as what Nate was saying, because of the nature of the stack being completely freestanding and having nothing to brace it or reinforce it, you know, it has a greater seismic risk than if it were tied into an existing building. And so Nate had mentioned, you know, one thing that you could think about was seismically reinforcing it. And, to do that works out to be about $625,000. And I think the thing that we were, you know, concerned about here is not only the magnitude of the cost to stabilize it, but then the ongoing costs to maintain it, because clear penetrating sealer lasts for about 5 years, and then you need to reapply it. Mortar, you know, we're only repointing about 80% of it. There are other mortar joints that are going to need to be repointed over time. The brick is is a wire cut brick face. It's not a glazed brick face, so it's more susceptible to water, taking on water, and so continued spalling and cracking of brick is certainly a concern. So it's not just that initial $455,000, it's also the long-term cost over time to continue to maintain it. If we could go one slide more. So part of the reason why we're here tonight is that in addition to those construction costs, if Robert were standing here talking instead of me, he would tell you that the school has to insure that smokestack separate and apart from the insurance that it carries on its building because of the liability associated with it. And it costs the school about $16,000 or $17,000 a year in insurance just to insure that stack. So it's not just the construction costs, there's also an ongoing operational cost that the school bears in keeping that stack there. And so Robert happened to go out and get a quote for taking the stack down which is about $150,000. We also had W.T. Rich, who is the construction manager that prepared the previous estimates, price it out, and it came out at about the same number. I think, you know, part of the reason why we're here this evening is because we'd like to get your feedback. It would be the preference of the school to take the stack down and do the one-time cost of about $150,000 rather than the $450,000 to stabilize and the ongoing expenses, both in insurance and maintenance of the stack. So we'd like to hear what the board thinks about that and get your impressions.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate you providing us these numbers and the report. Any questions, comments from the board?
The school owns the property, clearly. Was it your original intent to keep it as a smokestack or to eventually expand?
Thank you for the question. So the school took ownership of the property in January as a part of a larger real estate transaction. So we took ownership of 259 Middlesex, 225 Middlesex, and the commercial unit of 300 Jackson Street. So the smokestack was included in that transaction. We've been in the property for 25 years, and so we've been around the smokestack, have had significant concerns about the smokestack. And as soon as we took ownership of it, tasked a structural engineer to take an assessment of it. And once we saw the results of that assessment, we had to evaluate the costs as was described this evening. So we didn't have an intention of going in this direction immediately, but based on the reality of the costs, this is the direction that the school is looking toward.
And am I correct that, I know that we've been focusing on the smokestack, but there are other historic buildings on that property. Are all the structures that are currently there proposed to be removed to build the school?
Not at this time. So this project or this application that would be coming before you is just for the smokestack for structural reasons. Down the road, we are planning to build on the site and do intend on potentially demoing the turbine building, which is at the rear of mill number 5, as a separate application.
Okay.
I have a question about the original drawings, if this has been looked into with the proprietors of Locks and Canals collection, whether they have as-built or original design drawings of the chimney at the Center for Lowell History?
I have not, but that's something I'm interested in and willing to do for the school and the city.
Yes, it's part of UMass Lowell library system, and they do have an extensive set of drawings from Locks and Canals, and they were the ones that essentially owned the water rights, the water property. And so they also had control over steam power as well. So anyway, they might have a record of that, drawings of that. And one other question I had about insurance. This was part of the Luchulis property, correct? I'm assuming he insured the stack, yes?
He did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Through a separate policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to add one thing about the original drawings. As far as the freestanding nature of the structure versus what was constructed alongside, whether it was kind of a part of a flue system. Again, the Locks and Canals drawings, if they exist, might shed light on that. But I don't know, was there a building that you saw photographs of where the chimney was connected to a building? Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. In the original drawings from the Bromley maps, too, appeared they were one building.
Yeah, the building that collapsed in 2020 was attached to the smokestack.
Do you know, did that collapse cause any damage to the chimney?
If you looked at the photos, and you can see probably the second photo with the bricked-in infill, there is cracking at the area where there's the infill below the flashing. So was that caused by it? I don't know, but that's where it would have been tied in.
Do we know you said that the building was not originally freestanding, it was part of a larger structure around it. Do we know what height that building around it originally extended to from the historic records or from your research?
The building that failed and was eventually demolished was 1 story at that point. But I think there was taller buildings in that immediate vicinity, especially at the end of the building. But I don't know if the one next to it had been taller. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be looking at the insurance maps, any plans, atlases, things like that, any period, photographs, especially the one that shows the dual smokestacks is particularly informative, I think. I think that comes from, I think that's a Library of Congress Detroit Publishing Company photo from like the 1940s, the color one that shows it, yeah.
So there were also just one other thing regarding early documentation, the Sanborn insurance maps. And they have bird's eyes of many of the mills that show in some good detail the configuration of the structures. So that's worth looking into as well.
I mean, you're here to ask for my opinion, so I'm going to tell you. It is hard to think of a higher impact historic feature than a smokestack. There are certainly many historic elements that you could remove and nobody would notice. The smokestack is very much not one of those. I think, when we think of Lowell, we think of those mills and the smokestacks. And so to me, it's going to be very hard to get to a yes for demolition on that because it is such a strong feature of the building. And it does affect the historic landscape so much. I think a lot of other alterations you could say would have a lot less impact on the way you can view the buildings in historic context. I think the smokestack, and I think we can probably all think of smokestacks that we've lost, and it really does change the landscape. So, while I'm certainly sympathetic about the costs, I can very much see why you would want to go in a demolition direction. It's not something I'm personally very sympathetic to because a historic building does have, historic costs, and we know that, part of maintaining a historic building is maintaining its historic features. There are times when having a historic building comes with a lot of upsides, but it does come with some additional complex maintenance challenges. And to me, maintaining a smokestack would be part of that. I really am sympathetic to how expensive it looks to be. I don't envy you being stuck with what's clearly been some delayed maintenance on it. I think it's very responsible of you to price this out immediately. I think knowing how little time you've had control of the building and how immediately you focused on this as a safety concern in particular, I think really speaks well of your overall intentions as owners of historic property. But you've come to ask if you would be getting a yes from me, I think, gently, on the idea of demolition, and it's something I'd have a really hard time getting to a yes to. Our job is to protect historic features, and it is a historic feature. And to me, if we have a way to protect it, I would love to see it be able to stay and stand there for many years to come.
Yeah, to kind of echo some of that, these structural elements are such a character-defining feature of the Lowell city landscape and skyline, and over time we've lost more and more of these stacks, and so the ones that remain become more and more important and significant. And I know that each stack that currently exists has its own unique conditions. Some of them are freestanding, some of them are incorporated into a building. But to my knowledge, none of these stacks that are currently in the city are functioning as exhaust for a manufacturing facility of any kind. So that they're still there just as kind of structural remnants. And other property owners have found a way to stabilize them, repair them, maintain them in a sustainable manner. So I feel like there needs to be a real compelling case as to why this particular stack is different from others in terms of its condition, other factors that may come into play. I realize that it is already somewhat compromised, but by having been reduced in height from the lightning strike, so it is a little bit truncated from its
I think they actually repaired and added and then capped it.
Did they rebuild it to its original? I feel like it's from the images.
Didn't they actually
slightly lower, but
build a few courses to cap it? It looks like they
I mean,
built up a little bit.
I seem.
If they took down and built up, replaced, but.
Yeah, I remember the day that happened. I remember an entry and an exit wound at the top of the stack. Seriously, small bolt hole, large exit on the end. And as I recall, they did possibly do a couple of courses patching the hole. It was not raised in any significant height, though. But it has lost a few feet over time, much like the one the Lancet smokestack has, which is not uncommon. But I don't recall how much of it was. It might have been a couple of courses, and then they pointed up the top just to make sure where the lightning hit. Both, again, the entry and exit was solidified and taken care of.
Has your company been involved in any restorations or rehabs of other industrial smokestacks before, like this?
I have personally not.
But as the company in general, are there examples of similar types of structures that it's worked on and found ways to creatively preserve?
I would have to. I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Yeah, but certainly a lot of buildings that we see on both ends of the spectrum. Ones that we repair, ones that we, that need to come
down. The seismic reinforcement, what's it called, the RFP. Can you describe a little more what that entails and what visual impact that would have on a stack like this?
Yeah, and why do we bring that up? It was because the school is very site limited, right? And if you've been there, the adjacent to the stack is the playground. It's kind of the only spot. So how would you increase the safety? And that's how you might do it, was with a seismic upgrade. We would wrap, the stack in FRP, so you wouldn't see the brick masonry. You would see the FRP. You've probably seen this on like highway bridges sometimes. The piers, they'll wrap. They'll do the same thing for unreinforced brick. So I know that's certainly not like the ideal historic solution.
All right.
You're kind of limited on how you can reinforce an existing stack.
Right. Yeah, and this is just something off the top of my head. I don't know how feasible this, or how this would play into the feasibility of keeping some of the stack, but if, as it was originally constructed, was part of a structure, and if the school is looking to build on the site, and I don't know to what height you're looking to build or whatnot, but if there's a way that the stack could be incorporated into the design of a new building on the site that would bring it up to a certain height, that would help to add to its stability and bring it back to more of a condition that it was originally, as opposed to being simply a freestanding stack that has nothing around it. That might be one creative way to increase the stability of it and add to the seismic stability.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think there's some technical challenges. So by that would be called like a horizontal addition. And if we do a horizontal addition hard connected to that existing structure, we would own current building code. And so that portion of the stack that's above the existing building would have to meet current building code, and it does not now. So that would be the struggle there. So then that would lead us to something like an FRP, and we'd probably have to go to the board, because even that, it probably wouldn't meet full building code requirements. But I love the out-of-the-box thinking, like if we can There's code challenges there.
Any other thoughts from the board?
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult one. I definitely agree with my colleagues here that, not too many stacks are left in Lowell, and yeah, I know it's difficult. I understand the cost, but yeah, that was going to be my sentiment. It's their way for the architect to incorporate it. But to your point, I understand the code challenges as well. Yeah, I mean, I would want to keep this stack, really. I mean, that's our job. That's we need to, especially even in this location. Yeah, and I do sympathize with the architect's challenge to build the school here and keep the stack remaining. And yes, there's a cost to it, but yeah, I mean, there's always a cost to maintain historic structures, which are very important. Yeah.
I think part of this for smokestack in particular is it is not viewable as the others are across the city. You can't even see it from Jackson Street. So if you're on Jackson Street and you're looking for the smokestack that is associated with the Appleton Mill, you can't see it. You could see it surely on Middlesex Street or the Lord Overpass, but it's in a unique location where it's right next to the Judicial Center, which towers over everything in the neighborhood, and the new garage. So it's not sticking out like the smokestacks that are along the river that we see every day, that I see every day driving to work. I drive to this building every day, probably 7 days a week, and I rarely see it unless I'm on Middlesex Street. And so it's, and I agree, I think the smokestacks are a key part of the city's history, but this one in particular, I don't necessarily see the cultural element that it brings as impactful as the others. And I think the school is committed to fostering the historical elements of the building and of the neighborhood with our construction projects moving forward, and we've invested a significant amount of money in repointing the building itself, and will continue to do so. But the safety concerns related with this piece that we just took on just a few months ago is significant. And so, we have to prioritize the safety before we move on to any other types of construction projects, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, sort of piggyback on what Robert is saying for the most part, but, we are a public school. We're not, we operate under a tight budget every year. And unlike district schools that get assistance from the Mass Building Authority, charter schools don't get any of that. And so we have to budget and, plan for any type of capital expenditures through efficiently managing our budgets year after year so that we can get, funding and access to a mortgage, and all of those types of things. And so for us, this cost is quite prohibitive in going forward, and to be able to afford to put in basic things that I think our kids need, which is a gymnasium, a real gymnasium, which they've never had, a real kitchen in the school. All of these things are tied together. And so, money that we won't have for those types of things, if we have to tie it up in, maintaining a smokestack, that really serves no purpose for us as a school. And I get, I'm a history major. I get, the history aspects of these things. But as you indicated yourselves, some smokestacks have been taken down in this city. And so You know, we're not a developer, we're not putting in condos. We've been there for 25 years. We have 815 kids that go to school there every day and who don't have a gym and who don't have a kitchen. And so I think it's important for you to see the full sort of impact of what this type of a decision could lead to. You know, if we had all the money in the world and access to 80% of our costs reimbursed by the state, the way district schools get reimbursed, then we would probably not be here today. And so it's really because of that that we're here looking for your input. So thank you.
Steve, I'm just wondering if there are, with some of the other stacks in the city, if that are privately owned, have there been any recent rehabilitation projects or stabilization efforts that have been done that we could connect these folks to kind of
Well, I mean,
expertise and insight as to how these types of resources are maintained?
There would be the one at Boot Mills that wind companies did back in the early, in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
The one at Lancet Smokestack had been repointed back in the later 90s, and most recently got Community Preservation Act money to do some additional work over there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the Mass Mills folks are looking to do the repairs on theirs in advance of the uplighting of both the Boot and the Mass Mills smokestacks as part of the Waterways Vitality Initiative. There was also work done at both of the Lawrence Mills smokestacks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been, over the last few decades, there's been attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent one coming up, again, would probably be the one Lancet one, getting some CPA money to help with some of that.
I mean, these are very, very unique structures that have all issues unto themselves that don't and present questions and needs that other structures don't. So the more that we can kind of tap into the knowledge that's out there and the experience that people have had with these other structures around the city, it might be useful to share that with you all and have that kind of feed into any kind of follow-up discussions we have about this structure. And I'm sure Steve can help open some doors and make connections for you all in that vein.
I mean, I know that the one at Lancet Stack years ago was done by Boston Chimney and Tower. I mean, there are some specialty companies out there that do work in these regards and these matters. So, I mean, that's something we can probably provide some information on as well.
Yeah, but it would be great to kind of have almost like a second opinion from one of these.
I mean, the other thing is, looking down the road, I mean, again, not to say it's end-all, be-all in funding, but there is the Community Preservation Act money. In theory, I believe the school will be eligible for Mass Historical Commission, Massachusetts Preservation Project Funds money. That grant cycle happens every year. I'm just saying there are possible sources that could maybe help gap fill or provide a source of something to help in this. It's not just going alone. That's if, of course, they apply and whatever is voted,
Right. Yeah, I just think, based on the feedback we've provided, I think that there needs to be a very, very compelling case made that would enable us to support a demolition of a structure like this. And I think we just want everyone to have kind of done all the due diligence and explored all possible avenues and tapped into all the expertise that's out there so that we know that we've done what we can to explore all possibilities before we kind of look at that demolition as kind of the last resort. And that's how we approach all kind of demolition projects in general, but particularly for these unique stacks, it's something we definitely want to make sure we're taking the proper steps.
But I think it's also, maybe we can contribute to the due diligence by helping look for some funding sources, Community Preservation Act. So I don't know if you know how much you've looked into these alternatives, because this is a huge bill. No matter what outfit does the work, it's going to be expensive. So it seems to me part of the process, even now in the consideration of alternatives, is to look for funding. So you're not stuck, you know, it's an historic part of the historic landscape of the city. And, you know, we all share it, but you guys shouldn't be having to foot the bill alone.
I also read that it's in the National Historic Registry, so it may even be eligible for federal money, perhaps not during this administration, but
But I mean, it's almost like when when you're doing a development project, you create a cost pro forma, and oftentimes you'll have costs, you'll have incentives, you'll have credits, you'll have whatever in it. And in this particular case, the cost pro forma could factor in potential grant funding. Not that it's guaranteed, but it's something that you can look to. But I mean, I might even offer, we can communicate further offline regarding this and
absolutely.
thoughts and things, but maybe even have this, I don't have a standard placeholder on the agenda, but I mean, I think it's significant enough that even coming back again, this is what we found out, this is what we, like we do with other projects, just collaborate with the folks to try to come to some kind of a final answer solution.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in today for this informational presentation. To me, this is a great way to kind of start the conversation on these larger projects and ones that are a little more sensitive to historic resources. So we can certainly have follow-up conversations offline and at hearings as well. So we certainly want to work with you and make sure we're exploring all the options here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The one last thing I'll note is that because this was an informational session and not a hearing, there are 3 other members not here tonight for various reasons. Next informational, they can fully participate. If it's a hearing, they can fully participate. So this did not preclude the other 3 members from being involved as well, because they weren't here tonight. Unlike a public hearing, there'd be a whole other process to get them involved. But just so you know.
Great, thank you. Okay, also under other business, Steve, do you want to highlight anything in particular from enforcement or your admin report?
Everything as usual is informational here. I did want to note under enforcement, though, that 16 Merrimack Street's maintenance issues have been thoroughly addressed. It's noted here, it was also the subject of a Facebook post a week ago. Huge traffic, and people were fascinated by how someone would just maintain their building. And they were very happy to see it. So what I will note is we're working on a couple of others right now as well, similar issues, similar concerns. One thing that did go out and it's noted here was the cease and desist compliance request to the hydro company for some unpermitted mortar and pointing work on some of the Moody Street feeder underside of the arches that were visible. They promptly, within minutes, complied, pulled their crew off the site, and so on. And today I issued the historic permit for the work that they applied for, based upon the revised sample they did. Everything it's much more appropriate in appearance than what they had done initially. So I think it opened up a really good line of communication with the hydro company, their new owners. Some of them weren't aware of requirements, and this couldn't have ended any better in terms of opening up this, again, line of communication with actually subsequent projects down the road they've mentioned to me that we'll be looking at as well.
Yeah, thank you for your quick action for catching that just doing one of your walks around town, you know, this is why the admin position is so important, because
Yeah.
you're the eyes and ears on the street.
Yeah, it was actually caught by, I think, a retired National Park Service
Oh, was it?
employee,
Oh,
or
I didn't know that.
there was also someone else who's seen it happening. So what had happened was I had done the cease and desist, taken some pictures, waited overnight, because I wasn't going to send it at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, sent it first thing the next morning, and as soon as I sent it, I headed to the Merrimack Street end of the feeder, no activity, went to the Western Canal end of the feeder, and lo and behold, the crew was breaking down their equipment and demobilizing, and we had a great conversation on site even then initially, because the notice had been emailed to Maryland, to the home base of the hydro company, and within 20 minutes, they had called the crew up here to say, pull out right away. So it just couldn't have gone any smoother in the end result, too.
Steve, I have a question. The one thing that is not going so smoothly now is the fact that this is probably the longest drain down in the history of the canal system. And so my question to you, being the eyes and ears, there's a lot of vegetation that's growing up in some of the dry laid masonry, and so which is long term can do damage to the
Hydro's right now working on vegetation removal, especially on the Merrimack Canal heading up that way, and I believe they're heading down the lower locks on a project soon as well. I'll confirm that.
Yeah, as part of the relicensing discussions with FERC, that has required a lot of consultation meetings with interested parties. There's been the Park Service, the city, DCR, we've all raised with Boot Hydro the fact that they really need to address the vegetation removal, and they have been responsive. They have started some of that, and it's my expectation that they're going to continue with it throughout the canal system.
Well, that's good, because I haven't seen much action in that way. I've seen a lot of growth of vegetation, but not much removal.
Yeah, no, we're
Do you know, this is the longest drain down since I've lived here, and I can't imagine there's been a longer one.
No, there's issues at lower locks. There's a sinkhole at Mass Mills by one of the powerhouses. That's what they're trying to deal with.
I see.
Yeah. So that's about it under that. I did note that we were pretty even with the last fiscal year on applications and permits, and had a little over 74 million in development numbers amongst all the districts in the fiscal year. One thing I'm requesting is a vote tonight to accept 2 preservation restrictions for 2 Community Preservation Act projects. Both have been approved by the board in the past. The Girls Inc. project over on Worthen Street in the old Greek American Legion building, as well as 80 Gorham Street, where the Lowell Hotel, the old Boston Fish Market building. The board is able to hold restrictions. It really wouldn't do much more than what we already do. It just helps fulfill a requirement of the CPA funding for preservation projects. They file a restriction, and both of which have been thoroughly vetted by the Massachusetts Historical Commission, who have to sign off and approve all such restrictions of any kind in the Commonwealth prior to their execution.
So do we need a motion and a second and a vote for that?
That's what I would like, because it does say in the restriction, by vote of the Historic Board on this date, the board approved XYZ restriction.
Okay. Do we need a vote for each restriction?
Yeah, you could. So the first one could be for
why don't we do separate ones? Just to,
separate ones?
yeah, make it clear.
May I just say, just to be clear, what actually are we voting on?
A legal restriction that the board holds the paper on. So we actually are the restriction holder for these 2 properties on their deeds in perpetuity.
Okay, so it's just it's affirming that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For monitoring and enforcement. Right. Mm-hmm. All right, so the first property is the former Miss L.A. Hills Educational Club, a.k.a. Greek American Legion, at 228 Worthen Street. Do I have a motion to accept the restriction?
Motion to accept the restriction.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the next one is the former Lowell Hotel at 80 Gorham Street. Do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept on 80 Gordon Street.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
The Community Preservation Committee thanks you, which I'm not a part of, but
How many restrictions does the board hold approximately?
this is the first two.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only other time the board had an interest in real property was when the board acquired half of and bought the other half of 2628 Lawrence Street. Greek Revival Double House that we saved from demolition and proceeded to get grant money to stabilize and restore the exterior of, that was then flipped to someone to finish the work. So other than that, again, everything else in here is informational. So if anyone has any questions or comments.
Anything the board members want to raise before we adjourn? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second?
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's always tough to get attendance at these summer hearings.